What is going on, you guys? Back again. Today's video is going to be a mouse video. I have them all on hand just by chance, and I figured I would go over all of them. I know they're not the most popular mice. Well, some of them are, but you know, I don't have all the razors, mice, or anything, but I have in general what most people are going to be using on a day-to-day basis, depending on what application they use. So, figured I'd make a video on it and go through each and every one that I have. So, starting from the left, you have your basic throwaway mouse. This one came with a Dell. This is just a regular plastic laser mouse. You know, the typical ones that you see come with pre-built machines. I have my trackball mouse. It's the M570 by Logitech. Have a Logitech G5 Gaming mouse. That thing is old. This one is a gaming mouse that I really tried to pronounce the name, but I sound stupid, so I'm not even going to try, but there you go. I got the M65 Corsair Pro RGB mouse and the Corsair Scimitar. I don't even know how that mouse. I know people say it differently, but I'm just going to call it Scimitar because I've heard a few people say it that way. This one's the newer one. As you can tell, it's not the yellow framing here. On the older one, it was yellow here, and they have now released one with a black framing. So we'll start from left to right. So obviously this one, you'll see people still using it, mainly as they are on a budget and don't have the money to spend on higher end mice. This one, you could probably go to Goodwill or something, find it for like $1 or $2. It has your basic features, left and right click button, and your scroll wheel with, you're able to click the middle mouse to get that little scroll. I guess I don't even know what to call that. It's a little scroll wheel that you can go up and down by using the mouse. So you click it, go up and down with it, and it moves the page up and down, which most basic mice have nowadays. So that is your basic mouse. This one is mainly for work. I bought it a couple months ago. I really like it when I'm programming or making a graphical interface, a GUI. I don't know what you guys want to call it. It's an ergonomic trackball mouse. I like it because it's very accurate when I need it to be, and when you're working, you don't really need a 12,000 DPI mouse. So these trackball mice are mainly for work or production purposes, so you don't see too many people gaming with it. But I figured I had it and would show it off. This one has your left and right click button. Obviously the scroll wheel clicks as well, your back and forward button. And that's really basically it. It's a basic mouse that is a trackball mouse. Nothing, no crazy features on it, but it's an overall great mouse if you need it to be when you are doing other things other than gaming. Especially when you have limited space, this is the perfect mouse, especially when you don't need to move it around. So moving on, we got the Logitech G5 mouse. This is my first gaming mouse I've ever bought. When I was younger, this was the mouse I always used, because obviously, you know, when you're younger, you're in high school or you're in junior high, you can't go out and buy a $100 mouse. So when I was in high school, 11 years ago, 10 or 11 years ago now, this was my first real gaming mouse. This one came with the weights that you could throw in there to weigh down your mouse depending on what kind of games you're playing and your own preference. Obviously, I put the heavier weights in there because back then when I used to play, I used to play more often, and I didn't like the mouse flying away. So that's mainly what the mice weights are for. It's for your preference, whether you like it heavy or light. Because I used to use the mouse like, you know, I don't even know what to say. It's more of a preference of how you want the mouse to react when you're pushing it around. Keeps it where you want it to be. This one actually came with the side scroll. Some games used it. Not too many did. especially 10 years ago. So you have your regular scroll, you got your push down button on the scroll, but this one actually had a left and right, so you could push it left and right. I know on certain games they would actually have support for it where it would strafe, so say if you want to look around a corner, whereas in some games it's the Q and E button, where you could look, like in a shooting game, you could look around the corner, or sidestep, I can't remember what they're actually calling it nowadays. So if you wanted to sidestep or look around the corner, you'd actually push this left and right. But as I'll go through the newer mice, they actually don't have that feature anymore. You have the DPI settings. I think, if I'm correct, I think it's only a 3000 DPI, but remember this thing is 10 years old. So for a 10-year-old mouse that still works, and it's perfect, I've never had any issues with it, other than you can tell it's a lot slower than these three mice here. But the build quality is there. Obviously it only has the back button, there wasn't a forward button back then on these ones. But I know the mouse that came after it didn't include the forward and back button. But overall, it was a great mouse, still working perfectly over 10 years later. Logitech always built with quality material, and it's still there. This one is only like, like I said, I'm not even going to pronounce that name because I know I'm going to jack it up. This one, it was like 10 bucks on Amazon. It's great for what it is. It's definitely faster than this. My wife got me this to replace this one. But overall, it's a generic, cheap Chinese knockoff. Even the software is really hard to find. I googled the software, and it's not on a site. I actually had to go to a forum that had a link to it, and it was like a little small link that goes to a database that just happens to have a zip file for it. So it's really tough to find. But the software is really easy to use. You can program each DPI setting to each color. So whatever color you want it to be, you could change the DPI setting to correlate with each color. So red is the fastest for mine. Yellow, I think white's the slowest on mine. You have your oddly default. This one is your forward button. This one is your back button. So when you have your hand set like this, you can actually use this button to go back. This one goes forward. Obviously your left and right click button, which your left and right click button, it's a definite satisfying click. You do have to give it a little more force than you do this old mouse, oddly. Not sure exactly how to describe the way it takes a little more force to press than it does this older Logitech mouse. I don't know if that makes such a big difference in gaming, but I heard sometimes it does. But for me, it didn't really make too much of a difference. But overall, for a $10 mouse, it's a great lightweight mouse. The software is easy to use. If you're on a budget, this is the mouse to get. I know it's funny how back then this was your budget mouse. When you're looking for a laser mouse, that was it. Nowadays, this is your budget mouse. This is something you can find for 10 bucks. So things have changed in the last 10 years since I started gaming, and we'll keep going on to the next one. But that's all the basic features on it. It's a plastic design. Obviously, you can see where your fingerprints are. So anywhere you press, it does take a lot of grease. I guess a lot of grease off. My fingers aren't really that greasy, but you could see all your finger marks. This thing's not even that old, but it shows a lot of wear and tear. So moving on to the Corsair M65 Pro RGB mouse. This one, the only real differences with this one is the aluminum body and the RGB features pertaining to the older M65, and this one does have a 12,000 DPI is it optical laser mount, or is it optical? I think it's an optical laser. I think that's the difference between the two, but it is an 12,000 DPI, which I don't know anyone that actually goes up that high. But it does have an aluminum body and adjustable weights on the bottom, so you take these off. So all the weights are actually defaulted in it when you buy it. So you take the screw off here, and it has the screw, which is a weight, plus the circle weight that sits inside it. You can take all three out, or vice versa. You can leave one in and take the two out, depending on where you want the weight to be distributed. Obviously, the mouse clicks on this is very light. You barely have to press it. You can almost just lay your finger on it and it actually clicks, which, like I said, depending on which kind of game you play, that actually helps you out quite a bit. The software is easy to use. This is the Corsair software. You can actually program each button to do whatever you want it to do. You could even change your DPI up and down settings. I can't get that to focus. So your DPI up and down, you can actually change it to what you want, and then you got your sniper button on the side here. That slows down, it actually slows down your DPI to like 800, so when you're aiming, it slows down your mouse movement. It's a great feature if that is, first-person shooter is what you want to game in. The Corsair M65 RGB Pro is the gaming mouse that you would want for a first-person shooter game. It's fairly simple, not too complicated. Rugged design, I really like it. I've only used it a couple times so far. I don't really game too much competitively, so I can't say how well it does to help people out, but I've heard it does. I don't game as much as I used to, but overall, preferred mouse. I know it's quite on the pricier end, but definitely it's definitely worth the price. You can tell in the quality of its build. It's worth that $65 it was. I think it's now $50. Not sure exactly where the price is now, but when I first got it, it was $69. So quite the price you pay for a mouse, a gaming mouse. And on top of that, you have the Corsair Scimitar, which is more expensive than this, even though you don't get that aluminum body build that this one has. It doesn't even have weights, so even though this is a gaming mouse, it's mainly for MMO gamers. So you have your 12 keys on the side here. You obviously got your RGB lighting. These are defaulted for DPI settings, but you could change it to whatever you want. Obviously, you could change these to whatever you would like as well, depending on what game you're playing. To adjust this, so you can unscrew it, you can unlock it here with an Allen key, and then this whole pad slides wherever you need it to go for your comfort. This actually does have an ergonomic design to lay your hand completely flat on it. As you can tell, this one does not. This also does, I know most people will use this for every type of gaming, but it doesn't have the weights, like I said, to weigh down the mouse, and it doesn't have a dedicated sniper button, which you could obviously program one of your 12 buttons to be that sniper button, but it's not worth, if you're just a first-person shooter type of person, you're not going to want to take the extra $15-20 to get this. This is designed for specific uses, but I have actually used it a couple times for programming. I could actually hotkey, say if I'm programming, there's a couple functions I need, I could actually hotkey these to what I need it to do. So I find it useful in more than just gaming. But overall, the build quality is there as well. Like I said, when it first came out, this thing was $89, now it's $79. Actually, it might be $69 now. But the clicks, the left and right click buttons are just as light on this M65 as it is here. So you barely have to press it. So whatever game you're playing, your reaction time was a lot better. You obviously have your RGB lighting. 3 different spots here. I think yeah, there you go. And then your obvious scroll wheel click back and forth. This one doesn't have an indication light. So this is your DPI indication light, whatever color you set it to. This one does not have that. Oh, maybe it does. I never noticed that. So this light corresponds to that. So whatever DPI setting you have, it changes to whatever you want. I guess I've always had it red. So I've always had my mouse red because that's how the rest of my color scheme is. It's red. So I guess I never noticed that change in colors because I never changed it. So it does have an indication depending on which DPI you have. So if you come here to the software, your DPI performance, you got red, and then obviously it moves depending on what color you choose your DPI setting to be. So yeah, I guess I should have noticed that before. But obviously the software is real easy to use. You got your lighting there. You can have it. Obviously you have your programmable buttons. You could choose whatever button you want and make it do what you want, depending on the game and what you want the button to do. Okay, yeah. So that's what I have it as. I set it all to defaults before I did this whole video, so everything's kind of screwed up. It's not the way I had it before. But yeah, overall, this is a great gaming mouse. But if you're only just into first-person shooter games, you're not into big MMOs, or you have a mouse or a keyboard that is great for MMOs, you may not want to spend the extra money to get this. But if you are and you're going all out, great mouse. But I believe that the M65 overall for any type of gaming is actually the best performance type of gaming mouse that I would recommend. This is only aimed for certain type of gamers, but overall this covers everything that you would need in any type of game. But that really covers it all for the mice I have. If you have any questions or questions or comments about what you want to see in the mice, or if you have a question on the mouse itself, let me know in the comments down below. And I do want to say one thing, for most gamers out there, don't go out thinking, oh, if I buy a $100 mouse, $100 keyboard, you're going to become the greatest, first-person shooter in the world, or it's going to make you better. Because if that was the case, if I had all this hardware in here, I'd be one of the greatest first-person shooter gamers out there, and I should be on one of those shows, but I'm not. So, like I said, I'm not a competitive gamer, but I can tell you firsthand, just because you have a $100 mouse and a $200 keyboard does not make you any better. But it does help in some cases, but don't go out expecting to spend $200-300 on peripherals thinking it's going to make you the greatest. Unfortunately, I have to say it the way it is. If you suck getting this mouse, you're still going to suck. It's nothing that I can say that's going to make you better. The only way you can get better is to keep playing and practice. Just because you have a $100 keyboard does not make you any better. You're going to be the exact same skill set as you were before you got the keyboard and before you got the mouse. So just don't think that, oh, well, if I get the greatest and latest keyboard and mouse, I'm going to rule the world, and it's not going to happen that way. I bet you can give the best gamer in the world this mouse, and he would still dominate. While you have me, on the other hand, who has hundreds of dollars in peripherals, that gets 3 kills and dies 35 times in a game, and I'm the person you're yelling at because, dang, you suck at gaming. So, like I said, it's great to have the hardware. It depends on what kind of game you're playing, first-person shooter, MMOs, or whatever type of game you like to play, strategy. They do have its features, but like I said, it's not worth dumping hundreds of dollars into thinking it's going to make you better. You want the features. That's what you want. So, I hope this video helps you guys choosing what type of mouse you guys want to game with. And like I said, like and subscribe for more hardware tech videos, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.